running through.
All right, and we are live. I apologize to everybody on the internet for our delays, but my mic decided to not function, and neither of the backup mics worked either. So I am currently on speakerphone on Master Alexander's screen, but we're going to get this meeting knocked out now that we're 40 minutes late. Hello everybody. I am the Overlord Oler Geisenhand. I am Pen and Herald, which is submissions for the Kingdom of Meridies, and welcome to our May 2019 Internal Letter of Intent discussion meeting. I have a group of esteemed commenters here with me tonight, and I believe we're going to go ahead and introduce everybody. And I believe we're going to go ahead and start with our esteemed newcomer, Mr. Cormac. Would you like to introduce yourself to the internet?
His mic appears to be muted.
Yeah, he appears to be muted. So,
I'm not actually here. I'm not actually a person. I am a non-entity, simply watching in from home.
Okay.
Okay. For those of you playing at home, Master Cormac is Reese Sovereign at Arms. So he is the Society Herald in charge of Arms. He's kind of a big deal.
Yeah, perfect. Because I've got one tonight I really need advice on.
So if I can go ahead and get everybody to introduce themselves, going from left to right on my screen, starting conveniently with Master Alexander.
I'm Alexander Ravenscroft, Stentor Herald Extraordinary. I am mostly a field and court herald, but I have been with these since the very first one we've ever done.
All right, moving along to Catelyn.
Hi, I'm Lady Catelyn Wynn. I am Deputy Lambent Herald and local herald for the Shire of Fourth Castle.
All right, Kurt.
Hi, I'm Kurt Wagner, and I am Cipher Herald. That's the internal submissions herald.
Lucian.
Hi, I'm the Honorable Lord Lucien d'Artois. I'm the Lambent Herald, the Deputy Cipher Herald, and the Red Raven Pursuivant for the Barony of South Downs.
Right, here, Alan.
Alan Lutsen for Jorvik. I'm the current Lantern Herald for Kingdom Meridies Education Office. With me is Skylar Blacklock. She is the new local herald for the College of Phoenix Rising.
Pop all the way in so we can see you.
You're not getting out of it. Say hi.
Hi.
She hides from cameras.
Adelaide?
Hopefully my mic's working.
It is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Your mic is not working. I'm just kidding.
That makes one of us.
My name is Adelaide Colette de Bonferrer. Currently Herald at Large for Kingdom Meridies.
Bronwyn?
Hi, I'm Mr. Bronwyn Ogudwele. I am the White Antelope Herald Extraordinary, and I just kind of freelance because I have fun with this.
And she keeps me in check.
Well, sometimes.
As best as anyone can.
As much as anyone can.
And last but not least, Jenna.
Hi, I'm Lady Thorfinn Mossdaughter. I am the Baronial Herald for the Barony of Plainfield, and keep watch, I might have a new title tonight.
Well, you won't have a new title tonight.
Maybe.
I mean, we might advance the new title tonight.
But you won't actually get to use it until it gets registered by the College of Arms. Sorry.
We're spoiling all her fun.
Okay.
Okay.
There was a brief pivot.
Okay, so let's go ahead and get started.
Yeah.
Starting with item number one, Avis Scrivener.
Yes.
New name and new device. Going to start off with the name. Let's see here. The given name documented with Family Search. They're both documented with Family Search.
Yes. But they're also documented for Marini and Wilson and Barnsley.
Okay.
Yeah, because there are issues with the Family Search citations, but there some of the commenters have added actual sources for the names down in the comment. So
Okay. So do we have any issues with it? I'm seeing no conflicts in the comments.
no,
No, we have
conflicts in the
we have additional documentation on both names and comments, and no one found any conflicts.
We got no conflicts.
All right, so name's good. We will update the docs and send it up. Moving on to the device. Pure overall on a cross patent or a daisy proper and on a chief or a rear mouse table.
The main problem here is that some heralds felt that the daisy was barely overall and others did not. The client designed this, and I did the best I could to draw the daisy large enough.
I mean, I look at this, I see daisy on a cross. It's pretty clear.
Yeah.
Well, I looked at this and I think this is just a tricky motif because the cross does look like leaves under the daisy. Yellow leaves, granted. I don't think it's anything but this is going to be a weird thing. People are going to kind of look at it a little strange because they can't identify it too cleanly, but I don't think it's a violation of any of the rules.
I actually had a bigger problem with the rare mouse problem with the color, but that's been worked out. So
Yeah, she just didn't color it in when she submitted the color version.
So I'm not currently able to look at the screen right now because I'm driving because I'm muting because I'm much later than people. So can someone put it up on the screen just so I can see what we're looking at?
Yes, hang on a second.
give that. This right here, if you can see it from my screen.
It's kind of
Alan.
kind of
and a little to your left.
Better?
Yes.
Now that's not the one because that's the one with the daisy behind it.
Oh, I'm sorry, the redraw. I scrolled to the wrong place. Blind Herald at work. That's the right redraw. With the colored in bat.
She had originally had the daisy smaller, and I redrew it with the daisy as large as I could make it.
Sorry, Cormac, could you repeat yourself?
Whoever's holding up the image has to keep talking and making noise, or else it shifts to another window.
This was the final redraw with the slightly larger daisy and the colored in bat. Can you see it now?
Okay, yeah, no, it's finally coming in clear.
All right.
All right.
Do I need to keep talking, or can you see it? Enough.
Nope, I've got it. I've got it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm not certain. Are we going to have an identifiability issue with this?
Well, as I said, I made the daisy as large as I could, hopefully without obscuring the traits of the cross.
Yeah, but the point that I would like to make is that you get to a point where either the daisy isn't overall or the cross is too obscure to be identified as a cross.
Correct.
And in that second redraw, I mean, you're hiding 3/4 of that cross. I would have trouble identifying identifying that as a cross underneath that daisy.
I can see a danger of it looking like it's actually part of the flower arrangement of some kind. While those ends are the dominant aspect of that cross, with nothing to connect them except the daisy, it gets a little squirrely.
Especially with them being white and yellow together.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, do we have a tincture issue with the overall charge with low contrast? I'm not familiar enough with the rules regarding overall charges.
Well, the overall charge has to contrast with the field. Yeah.
Right.
Not that it will decide the issue, but the colorblind person beside me cannot tell the difference between the white and yellow from a distance of about 2 feet.
Well, the just plain blind person here at any distance is going to have trouble distinguishing as a separate entity. But like I said, the cross is the things that define that as the type of cross it is are its ends. But they're only ends with nothing to connect them in this particular view. So does that really make it a cross, or does it make a flower with accessories?
Well, let me ask this question because we've got a long letter. Can we make this determination at Kingdom?
I don't know that we can.
I don't think we can in this case because I think this is an edge case. So as much as I dislike doing something like this, I think this needs to be passed on because this is not something we can actually decide here.
Yeah, I think Alexander's right. I think this is above my pay grade.
An appeal is too strong if we were to return it.
Yeah. Definitely above my pay grade.
If only we had Wreath Sovereign Arms here.
Wreath Sovereign at Arms is acting like an observer. He is not going to provide us with any input.
I was kidding.
You can absolutely make a determination whether or not something is identifiable as fairly overall.
And besides, he's driving in California. We really don't want to have him distracted.
I think the cops shoot you for that there.
I thought it was the natural state of drivers in California.
Well, it is, but we're not going to make it worse.
All right, so we're going to advance the device and note the concerns that we have with it.
Okay.
Well,
needs a ruling from on high.
All right. So moving along to item number 2, Dorothea Wilhelm's new device, Fable on a crosslet Fitchy, origin 3 crosses crosslet Fitchy. It's supposed to be ghouls.
Right.
I kind of like it, actually.
It is rather a stunning piece of armory.
It disturbs
me. What I have is, wouldn't the default orientation, the default arrangement for the tertiary charges be infest? So wouldn't by default that middle one be in the middle of the cross and not up on the arm?
See, that was my question. If you were just given this blazon, how would you know where to place them?
Is that a blazon problem or a style problem, though?
Are the crosslets in the sub crossbars?
Yes.
Because that's how I think it might be. You might need to blazon them. Is Sable and a crosslet Fitchy 3 Argent crosses within the cross? The sub
or 1 and 2.
That's getting really complicated.
Ooh, 1 and 2 looks good.
Yeah.
1 and 2 does look good.
3 crosses crosslet, 1 and 2 ghouls. Simplifies it.
Yeah.
That might work. Certainly works in that sense now.
Other than that potential style issue, did we have any conflict with this?
Not that any one thing.
No.
Yeah, 1 and 2 forces the position.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
Okay. So
All right, did we figure out
Or
the
it could be
previous
in the
slide?
crosslets.
Okay, we did.
Yeah. So it needs the position correction and the tincture correction.
Yeah.
I think adding 1 and 2 to describe the orientation would be the simplest fix for the blazon
Right.
to clarify things if we're even allowed to do this.
And if we, yeah.
And that's a decision that's above my pay grade too. So we will go ahead and send that up with the modified blazon and see what happens.
Okay.
Okay.
I went fishing for precedents that would specifically deal with this and couldn't find anything that dealt with anything quite like it. So, yeah.
All right, moving along to item number 3. Is that Dayton?
I think something like that.
Ton Felon. New name and new device. We're going to start off with the name. Do we... Here, I see Brownman, you provided...
I provided a working link. The link originally given did not work.
Okay. So, the updated link. But otherwise, do we have any issues with it?
I didn't find any.
Mm-mm.
All right. Well, if we didn't find any issues with it, we will go ahead and send that up. Moving on to the device. Azure, a bare statement or within an oral of bees or marked stable.
Yeah, the main thing people had problems with was the size of the bees and the identifiability, therefore.
Yeah, they look sable instead of or.
As I put in the comments, as much as I hate the thought of bigger bees, this one needs it.
Maybe bigger bees and fewer bees.
Yes.
Because if you make them bigger, they don't need to have so many.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And do we need to blazon this as a Pooh Bear?
It's not where
There's no honey pot, baby, and he's not.
But it's
wearing
got bees,
the
so the honey is
Bees.
only naturally going to follow.
Mhm.
All right, so I think that the bees issue is going to be an artist note.
Very possibly.
Fewer bigger bees to make them more identifiable and to clearly show that they are or and not sable. Because whenever you get them this small, just the thickness of the line really blurs the color of them.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, all right, so we will send that one up too.
Good.
With an artist note on the bees.
Mm-hmm.
Item number 4, Barony of Gladenfeld, new heraldic title, Golden Hydra Pursuivant.
I think that since the submitter didn't provide any documentation, we should kick this back.
Yeah, I think we need to bounce it.
Administrative return for sure.
I submitted the documentation of the Golden Hydra badge.
Well, hail Hydra.
Oh, we can't say that.
Don't say.
We'll say that. Mm-hmm.
We're gonna get Disney's gonna come up here and
Yeah.
do us for the 37 cents that we're worth. It'll cost us more to postage to send them what we're worth.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I really do think she's actually here. We should see just how much groveling we can get out of her. I mean, it's kind of a rule.
Yeah, you ready to bring in cookies?
I can make scones.
Buns
That's
work.
even better.
So, Madeline and Serafina both provided sample documentation for what we can use. So I've got better documentation that I can update it with whenever it goes out to the LOI. I didn't find any conflicts with it. Like Alexander, House of Silver Hydra was the closest we could get.
And that's just on a low R. I pulled that off a low R.
Mm-hmm. I found a lot of golden something heralds, but
Yeah, I don't
And-
see
and
anything
it's-
wrong with it. You used
It's
to
close to Golden Dragon too, because a Hydra is just a dragon with more than one head.
but this is a name.
No
As
wings.
citation there, that's funny.
No wings.
Not
I
all
think
dragons have
it's
wings.
fine. I think it's fine. So there.
I like Mr. Spronglin's idea.
She doesn't know what she's talking about.
right? She's a newbie. She hasn't been doing this very long. I don't know.
All right. So if we don't have any issues with the heraldic title there, we are going to go ahead and send it up. Moving along to item number 5, Griffin of Squared, new badge. Sable, 3 mullets, 1 and 2, and a chalice argent.
I know it says that y'all weren't able to find the name, but this is for Sir Griffin of the Baron Plainfeld.
Yep.
Yeah. I think see here, let's go.
His name's definitely registered.
Oh, it had the
Oh,
Golden,
maybe, yeah, just
Dragon
maybe
Staff
not
found
in the
it.
form. Yeah,
Yeah, that's just Cypher can't find it automatically.
Yeah.
yeah.
That's just a subroutine. That doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, it's Oscar. Oscar put that message up there. And it's because the O sweared.
Mhm.
The O has a diacritic as opposed to a O.
As opposed to a no apostrophe.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a space between
It's
the O and the
registered as O apostrophe SWERDE.
No, it was changed in October of 2007.
Listed in the O&A.
But it also says it was changed.
Okay, in
It's
October
changed.
2007. Okay. Yeah. All right. So I will be able to. I will be able to update that spelling on the O and the LOI. So back to the badge.
If I just saw this, I would think it was a Meridian badge rather than a personal badge, but that's just
So
because of the,
There's nothing wrong with that.
you know,
I mean, that's fine. It's a meridian augmentation. I just
Right.
thought Alice should be bigger because they look co-primary.
That's
Yeah.
what
yeah.
background for this is he's registering it to himself first to get it passed, and then he's actually passing it to the chalice cup.
I was wondering about that. Because
Yes.
that's what it looks like it ought to be as a badge for the Order of the Chalice.
It's going
And
to be-
that's lovely. We still got to get it passed, though.
yeah, that's why
Thought
we
about
Yeah.
that co-primary thing.
Okay.
And Griffin is. Oh, go ahead, Ulrich.
If we're trying to get it as co-primaries, the easiest way to do that is to shrink the chalice just a little bit so that it doesn't go above the fence line.
Right.
Because if you have just stars above the fence line and just the chalice below the fence line, that makes it appear co-primary.
Right.
Right.
I'm sure he'll be okay with that.
If that's what he wants, the chalice either needs to be just a teeny bit smaller or much bigger.
And incidentally, Griffin has an augmentation and is a member of the chalice, so none of this presumptuous.
Yeah.
Right. No.
And that, by the way, is the original augmentation, not the current one.
Yeah.
So we will get that redrawn, just shrink the chalice just a teensy little bit. And if he approves it, we will advance it. Bob's your uncle.
I'll get that done tomorrow.
Tom's my uncle, actually.
Bob's my uncle, though. I think he was talking to me.
Okay, that's fine then.
I think Bob's our uncle.
And he is also a big boy.
Okay.
Okay, so moving on to item number 6. Isadora de Miranda, new name and new device. Let's start off with the name.
The name ought to be fine as far as documentation goes.
We will see here. We're going to probably need a different citation for Isadora because it's Wikipedia.
Let's see. I think I thought they had it from a different source too. Hang on.
No,
it's all
the
Wikipedia.
article is for de Miranda.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Miranda's not the problem, though.
No.
Let me.
Well, I'm sure we should be able to find Isadora somewhere else. I'm wondering if any of Juliana's articles have it.
I just searched on Morcellus, and we get Pictish, Polish, and Pictish.
And that was my first thought too.
I love
But Pictish is returning because Isidore of Seville wrote about them.
Well, Isidore is also the child's one of the child's mundane names.
Or
it
That
doesn't
might be
say
the
on
easiest way
it.
to go,
Doesn't,
then.
yeah, it doesn't say on this documentation, but Isidore is I can't remember what his middle name or his first name.
I was gonna say, then let's just use the mundane name allowance.
Well, they would have to have documentation that it is his mundane name, though. And he wouldn't have a driver's license or anything because this is a child.
Yeah,
He'd have a birth certificate.
Master William would have a birth certificate for him.
Yeah. We might have to contact William and get his father and get a birth certificate, but if we want to use the mundane name allowance.
And if he's worried about like sending a copy of it in, you can actually look at it and sign an attestation saying that you saw it and whatnot.
Yeah.
Maybe two people.
Two people.
Yeah. You and one of your other Shire officers.
Yes, well, I know it's his name, but yes, we can if we need to. But it's also possible. Well, if we're not finding no Marcellus, it may not be under any of the Spanish names.
Oh.
There's a Saint Isidore of Sevilla.
Right, and that's what we probably need to do is find another reference for Saint Isidore. That would be easier.
We need something that isn't Wikipedia.
Hang on a second. Saint
if it is an established Catholic saint, then we could probably send it up.
Okay. What about Francis franciscanmedia.org.
I'll tell you what, since we're looking at trying to get through as many as we can, and it's after 8 or 9 tonight, how about y'all look and see if you can find anything and let Penn pen this for the first name.
Okay. Yeah. So if you lovely name people could tackle that, and if you get something, just email it to me or drop it to me in Facebook message. And
Well, here's a link in chat to franciscanmedia.org, which lists Isidore the Farmer.
Well, yeah, but if that's not going to show us the proper construction of the period name, we can't use it, can we?
Yeah.
It's not a doubt of this person existing. We just have to prove that spelling at that time.
Right, but
Correct.
I'm just saying it's not Wikipedia, so it's a second source.
Yeah, but they'll use it the same way as they do Wikipedia. We'll have to have a valid source that they're going to look at and say we need the name in this way.
What time period are we looking for? It says death in 636.
But the problem with modern websites is very frequently they modernize the spelling.
The name.
You need to find a period spelling because that's not dated to a period source.
The first name and the last name need to be within 300 years.
And the last name is a 15th century name.
Okay.
Okay, so we need to have it as.
So it needs to be within 300 years of 1400 to 1499.
Well, in the case of a saint's name, though, if that saint was venerated for a considerable amount of time, then it would have been in the name code.
1622.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is going to be a late name anyway.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So if you guys can tackle that and
I have it documented in Family Search to 1650 in France. And
I'm looking at the actual document for that one.
And French and Spanish can be combined.
Okay.
I like it.
You could
send him a link.
Yeah, if you could send me a link, I will update the docs for that.
And that is one that does not have a batch with it, but it has the period document.
It has the original document with it.
That'll work.
Rolling.
All right, so we will send that up with the updated doc. Moving on to the device, or a cross of 4 ermine spot sable on a Chief Azure 3 Compass Roses 4. We get a step from period practice for using compass roses.
Mm-hmm. There's a redraw that I did at the bottom because when they colored them in, these spots did not look sable.
If I remember correctly, that was a Gulf Wars one, and it's very much sable.
No, that's not a Gulf Wars. That one was mailed to me after Gulf Wars.
Okay.
No, it's one of my local folks. It's another member of the same family, another one of the children. And originally, when I drew it for them, the ermine spots were azure, but when they colored it in, they decided to make it sable.
Look at the big one. It looks sable, but I mean, yeah, but clarity is good too.
Well, also, the compass rose is easier to see too.
Yes, on the redraw.
On the original, they're a little dark and hazy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do we have any issues with this device? Any conflict? Any style issues?
None that I'm aware of. Across the 4 ermine spots is a known charge. Compass roses are a step from period practice, but.
Yep. All right. So in that case, then I don't see any reason not to advance it. So we will go ahead and send that one up too.
Okay.
All right. Moving on to item number 7, Jacob Williamson, new device. Bert, a comet between in chief 2 lightning bolts in chevron argent.
It's a step from period practice for having the.
Yeah, there's a step from period practice for the use of lightning bolts outside of a thunderbolt, and I think that the comet is actually a comet inverted. I think that they default star to the base and tail up. I could be wrong on that.
I think you're right.
No, I think you're right. This is a blazing correction.
They just asked Miss Holm real quick.
I don't see any conflicts for it.
No. This is another member of the same family.
The head is to the chief by default.
The head is to chief by default, okay?
Oh, okay.
Okay, then it's right.
All right.
Then the
That is
blazing's
correct. See? I can be wrong sometimes.
The design makes it tricky, but it ain't technically illegal, so.
So, I don't think we have any style issues here. I didn't find any conflict.
Nor did I.
No, no conflicts.
All right, so we will send that one up. Moving along to item number 8, Maria Isabetta de Miranda, new name and new device. I have a feeling that this particular individual is related to number 6.
Yes, they're all related.
They're all related. This is one big family.
This is one big family. But they've still got some other kids that haven't sent them in. But Maria originally wanted to submit Maria de Miranda. That is an absolute conflict with someone else. So the Isabetta was added to different set.
Okay. So docs appear to be good.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
No conflict found. So name appears to be good. Unless anyone else found anything, I'll send it up.
No, it looks good to me.
All right, so moving on to the device. Argent, a cross of 4 ermine spots per pure between 4 ravens migrant to chief azure.
Seem to be sensing a theme here.
Reword that to 4 ermine spots in cross.
Mm-hmm.
Do we know if the submitter wanted 4 ermine spots in cross or if they wanted a cross ermine?
They wanted a cross of 4 ermine spots, just like her sister, which was
number
6.
Is it? I mean, her brother Isidore.
Got it. Because the documentable cross of ermine spots that we have would not have that many dots. The top dot of the ermine it'd be a lot more combined. For style and simplicity's sake, it might not be a bad idea to show the submitters what a cross of ermine spots looks like. It can be found in the pictic, and verify that that is indeed what they want, and possibly do a redraw before you send it up to Laurel.
Okay.
Well, this is what they drew, and so I'm guessing that they don't really care how it's blazoned, as long as. So could we blazon this as 4 ermines and ermine spots in cross? Points to just.
Oh, sure, absolutely. And that is probably how it will be blazoned in the end, if this emblazon is what's set up. I'm just thinking that if they didn't know what a cross of ermine spots was, and they didn't know that the option was to have 5 dots instead of 12, that they might, for reproduction's sake, they might choose to do a cross of ermine spots instead.
Well, then we got the same problem with Isidore's.
Right.
Yeah, well, I had to bow out for a bit because I had some connectivity issues. But simply from a procedural standpoint, from a customer service standpoint, they might be interested in not having to do 12 dots every time they do their device.
Yes, especially if they're going to be putting it on things.
Okay.
All right, so we will. I will get in touch with both of these submitters, number 6 and number 8, and ask them about that. And if they
Same
want to do
family.
that, then we will we'll redraw that and send it up.
Yeah, same family. So
Yeah.
kill two birds with one stone, so to speak.
Okay.
No, the birds are alive. No dead animals, Bronwyn.
Yeah. And yes, that is perfectly acceptable in period style for the 2 birds at the top to be bigger than the 2 birds at the bottom because they are
Fill in the space.
the space that they are allotted.
Yes.
All right. Let me make a note of that. All right, moving along to item number 9. Radolf de Passes, new name and new device. Start off with the name. Both. The docs appear to be good. Do we have any issues with conflict or construction or any of that loveliness?
Not on the name, as far as I know.
Okay. Okay, so Bronwyn, your comment about Randolph versus Radolf.
Right. In the cited source up at the top, it's Randolph instead of Radolf, but Julia was able to come up and find Radolphus. And
Yeah, it's Rodolphus in the original.
uh-huh,
It says Radolf is the likely vernacular,
correct.
Okay.
which is not clear in the document, the citation, that it's actually Rodolphus, that the heading that it's under.
Mm-hmm.
Easy fix.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so we will edit the documentation on that just a little bit to make it a little more clear.
Yep.
And send up the name. Moving on to the device. For pale, argent, and ore, infest a wooden boat proper and a sea serpent undulant vert, and in chief an arrow festwise inverted sable.
Not inverted.
No.
It's reversed. But the whole device makes me twitchy because it looks like the arrow was just thrown in there to avoid appearance of marshalling. And in both cases, you've got horizontal charges in a long vertical space, so they do not fill the space. So the whole thing just feels unbalanced to me. But that's just a personal.
Just stylistically, you want to turn it around.
I want to do something with it. Yeah.
Yeah, you look at it and you're like, but profess.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
And plus, that one little tiny arrow stuck up there on the across the line.
It does not fill the space.
You know, if they made that profess, they could take the arrow
yes,
out.
the dragon under the boat would be cute.
Yeah.
Or over. It doesn't really matter.
It doesn't matter, but the arrow is just kind of floating, this little tiny arrow up there. None of the charges fill the space allotted. So I just have a problem with the style.
Well, from a visual point of view, from my end, that arrow isn't an arrow. It's a miscellaneous minor blob.
Uh-huh.
It would need to be considerably larger.
Yeah, that's what I said. It does not fill the space.
Yeah, because if I was given this blazon to recreate, I would draw the arrow so that it filled the entire top space of the shield.
Right.
Yeah.
But would we get into?
And you're looking at 3
Yes.
different charges in the same charge group once it becomes the same size.
Yep. Which is my first
Which is
thought.
a problem.
Mm-hmm. But you're right, though. If you change it to profess,
actually- Sorry.
Go ahead.
I did want to correct. If 2 of the charges cross the fest line and one is very clearly pushed into chief and does not, it does not create the appearance of primary and secondary charges.
Good.
Or it does not create the appearance of co-primary charges.
So that means that we could increase the size of the arrow as long as the sea serpent and the boat cross the fest line without having a slot machine issue.
Which they both do in this instance.
Yes,
Yes.
it would actually be better if you could shift them up a bit higher to make sure that they're clearly, center them on the fest line rather than have them be sitting a little bit lower, which would actually give you more space in the artwork. But
Yeah, I was
simply
thinking
as a matter of clarifying a ruling that I have made.
Okay.
And there's a whole cover letter on it. The arrow, as long as it stays in chief, would be a secondary charge.
Good. Then we can correct that by enlarging it.
I like that suggestion about pushing the primary charges up and making them a little bigger, because that'll help fill, because there's a lot of vertical space at the top of the shield, and it looks weirder to have vertical space at the top of the shield than it does to have it at the bottom of the shield because of the way that the shield tapers at the bottom.
Well, you would also have more width a little bit higher up in the shield for those.
Yeah, exactly. So you'd be able to make those charges bigger and make the arrow bigger because it's just like a little tiny arrow.
And they could rename it Elf Shot.
Okay, I'll get a redraw in tomorrow for that.
And that way we could also shift that boat away from the line of division a little bit, because it does overlap the line a little bit, which is a style issue.
Well, actually, the sea serpent and the boat could be elongated a little bit vertically, and they would fill the space a little bit better too. But
yeah.
All right. So we are going to redraw the device and send it to the submitter for approval.
sounds good.
All right. Moving along to item number 10.
Another Scrivener.
Rose Scrivener. New name and new device.
Oh yeah.
Name appears to be okay. Docs check out.
I found script in my book.
Yeah, there's no reason to claim grandfathering from her father. Scrivener's perfectly allowable.
Yeah.
Is that me?
No, it's me.
Oh, okay.
Fishing for something that wasn't cooperating.
So the name is good. We will borrow the docs that are provided here for Scrivener. Pull stuff a little closer together time-wise, and send that up. Moving on to the device, Argent, a crosslit Fichy Procure, and an oral of ivy vert.
We do have precedent that says an oral of ivy is separate from an oral of laurel, right?
Well, they don't look anything alike.
So we have precedent for it. Yes.
I'm not certain, but I mean they are completely different leaf shapes, which would suggest that they are in different groups for plant conflict.
Okay.
So, did we have anyone find any conflicts with this or any style issues? All right. Well then,
We're good.
okay. Then we will send it up.
All right.
Kind of armor this simple and clean.
11. Sabine Helena Call. New name. Good German name. I approve.
You would.
Is there such a thing as a good German name? I mean,
Really? German name's a good German name. Docs check out.
No, they don't.
Wait,
No.
no, they don't. You do?
Sabine versus Sabina.
Sabine versus Sabina, yeah.
Yeah, that was my question on that one. Now, one of those could be a typo. Julia said that Follow Gentry doesn't exactly support Sabine or Sabina as a period German
Hmm. We have Sabine in Dictionary of Medieval English Names. Where are we going?
Combining English and German should work.
And German and English, I do believe, are allowable
Okay.
for combination.
I'll put the link in chat, but yeah, we've got it for English. Actually, got it for Greek, Latin, and English.
Because the other two portions of the name are 14th and 15th century. And what did you say, the English?
I have 1589 and 1560 on the link I just sent in chat.
I have 1292 lay subsidy roll for London.
Okay, so it was running all through that period, so it should be okay. They did both before and after the other two name elements.
Okay, so we have docs for English name.
English, German.
Looks like French as well.
Yeah, that
it would be.
I just consulted my copy of Barlow. That's not a typo. The header is with an E, but the actual citation in the text is with an A.
Well, what they're saying, the header, when you look at where it says 11, it says Sabine, and then in the documentation it says Sabina.
Correct.
So that's where we've got the header is referencing the top one versus the documentation, which is Sabina.
Right, but the submitted name is with an E, not with an A. So they didn't cite the name with an E, they cited the header.
Right.
And one of the submitters or one of the commenters, that citation they put in the commentary is exactly what it says in the book. So that doesn't even support that as a German name, really. It's come from an ancient Roman name. So it's like...
Then we're probably going to have to go with the English or the French.
And they're the same.
Okay, so I was wrong. English and German are not combinable.
What about French and German?
Yeah, we got France in.
Yeah, but if you found French, we can do French.
Okay, then we need to document Sabine from French.
Yeah, I've got it.
French is in 814 on that one. It's not.
Yeah, but it's also not the same spelling.
Yeah, it's not the same spelling.
Give me a minute, I'm flipping through them.
I am tempted to go ahead and advance this, even though they're using the header as opposed to the cited spelling.
Mm-hmm.
See if we can get someone at Laurel to provide us. See if they can provide us with documentation.
Worst case scenario, they can change it because the submitter doesn't allow major changes, but that's not a major change because it's still pronounced the same.
Correct.
What year was the by name?
1364.
1497.
1497,
Okay.
yeah.
1364 was the middle name.
Oh, I'm sorry. Went to the wrong line. Thank you.
DMNES has France as 814.
Yeah.
Hungarian and Italian as well.
Yeah.
Both of us linked. Two of us linked it, so it's twice in the chat now.
Yeah, but I think.
And you said English does not combine, correct?
Correct.
It does
Not with German, no.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
I'm surprised. I thought
The
it
spelling
did.
seems to be English. I'm finding it all over the place in English.
Yeah. So I will also go ahead and contact the submitter and see if they would be willing to change it to Sabina. Because if they are willing to change it, I can add a note to that effect that if we can't find Sabine, go ahead and change it to Sabina, and that would solve a lot of headaches.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I found it in French in 1650.
On Family Search, Sabine Moret.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
I'll look that too.
We can add that as well, and that'll give us.
It's barely gray area, but it's allowable.
We only need barely.
Yeah.
1564 English. Never mind.
It's just that I'm putting
It's in a French name, so I was confused.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and advance this and ask for help finding Sabine with this spelling that'll work with the rest of this name, and also contact the submitter
Sounds good.
I think that's the most solid, fairest way we can go about doing that. So moving along to item number 12, Solveig Brighthelmston, new name and new device. I was in whenever she came in at Gulf Wars.
Yep.
Uh-huh.
So starting off with the name, Solveig is docked to Gearbossi. Brighthelmston is existing registration allowance.
For Lex, yeah.
Relationship. So I didn't find any conflicts. I don't see any issues. So the name, we're going to go ahead and send up, unless anyone has anything else to add.
Nope, not me.
Okay. And moving along to the device, Procure an azalea flower and 3 dragonflies in Paul heads to center Arjan. I realized that this was done at Gulf Wars, and the purple markers at Gulf Wars are notoriously inaccurate on scans, but this really does look azure.
It does.
On here. So we'll at least need a recolor of this before it goes up.
Do that.
Well, yeah, my main concern is the azalea.
Yeah, that looks like a Georgia Tabor.
I don't know enough about. I've been burned by devices with flowers on them before. They make me nervous.
Yeah, and I could not find, I mean, I found azalea specifically disallowed as a given name, as post-period. However, I couldn't find any precedence at all one way or another about the flower.
So the submitter wanted an azalea. She did not say she wanted a specific breed. My guess, or species, my guess is the artist looked up on image search, Google image search for an azalea flower and drew it. Whatever the first one she saw looked good. That'd be my guess.
And I did some research on this too. That is probably the most common, particularly in Meridier's azalea flower. But it does seem to be a very New World object. So I think to do this specific flower, we would need to prove that it was known so it could be used. Contra-wise, azaleas exist across several different continents, including Africa. So I think we could use one of those if she's willing to take a different, if it looks a little different.
Well, this looks like a lily to me. That's what I thought it was to begin with.
I thought it was a lily too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like a daylily or something. I don't know.
But if she wants an azalea, there are some, I think, European azaleas. So if we were to swap out for one of those, that may solve the whole question of, is this a known piece of flora?
Right, because otherwise we're checking against every 5-petaled flower, right?
Yeah.
Well, no, it's because if to put a flora on arms, it has to be known somehow to Europeans under the current rules.
Right.
And I think since this is Georgian, basically, there's a high possibility, but I think it would be wise to lock that down somehow. Find a description in Europe or swap it up.
There's a complication in line with what you're saying, Alex, that the azalea has been modified heavily in modern times, and there's about 40 different varieties, some of which have been crossbred with European strains back and forth. So picking the right one that is actually period and referenceable in period might be kind of tricky.
So
better idea.
I pulled up the OED. Aha. The first reference to azalea is 1753.
Okay.
Now, they may have known it under a different name.
Correct.
Yes.
So if she wants that flower, we just have to figure out what that flower was called.
The one British species, Azalea procumbens, Procumbens, found in the Scottish Highlands is by some made a distinct genus, Loiseleura.
Do we know if it looks anything like what Smitter has here?
I will see what this comes up with.
Sounds like it's akin to the laurel family or something. It would still have to be checked
Alpine
against
azalea.
lilies. It would still have to be checked against lilies and other flower petals.
I think it's very telling that there's not a single azalea registered in the O&A.
Mm-hmm.
I can't imagine that nobody thought to register an azalea before.
Right?
Well, we don't. The SCA doesn't have a very strong presence in Georgia, so
That has not been my experience.
Come on, y'all don't even have as many baronies as Tennessee does.
No, but our baronies are better.
Oh my.
Well, not quantity, said the mother.
You know, this is kind of how the old sheep wars got started.
So, are we saying that we have an issue where we cannot?
I'm not sure it's verifiable.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
Is it potentially?
Well, the thing is that I'm not sure it can be blazoned as an azalea unless we prove that. And if the name azalea was
but
not,
if that looks like a lily. What I mean, can we? They want the picture. I don't think. Do they want the picture?
But it doesn't. It doesn't look. It doesn't look like a lily.
No.
It glances like a lily, but it's neither. It's neither what it actually is nor what she desires.
Okay, so in doing the searching on the Azalea Linnaean name, they come up with rhododendron. Rhododendrons are known in period to 1548.
They are related.
yeah, to the rhododendrons. Okay.
Okay.
Do we have anything blazoned as rhododendrons?
Maybe.
No.
Probably from the 80s. We did.
No,
Right.
we do not. I just checked.
So again, nobody's managed to pass one before. That's probably a hint.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I can't imagine that nobody ever tried to register.
Rhododendron either. Yeah.
Right.
I suspect because of the multiple varieties, the crossbreeding, and the time conflicts, nobody's ever been able to document one correctly that they can actually support to an exact period origin.
Okay.
I have friends in the hardcore gardening community that I asked about this, and
Ooh.
they don't know what the original azaleas, so-called, and they were known under a dozen different names, what they actually look like because too many people screwed with them too many times. They're just too popular decorative plant.
Okay, so what's the possibility we can pass this with generic 5-petaled flower and not name the azalea? You'll get
Is that
various
what the submitter
5-petaled
wants?
flowers, but
Yeah, does the submitter want the blazon to be azalea?
well,
Is that what's important or is
have
the flower
azalea we
important?
can find.
Well, because didn't somebody say that the original submitter wanted azalea specifically?
Yes, specifically mentioned azalea.
Specifically, okay.
That's going to be a problem.
Yep.
But then again, if she can't have an azalea, she's like, what? Perhaps. I mean, but we're guessing. We can't guess the idea. We'll have to contact this.
Well, nobody, when she registers it, she can display she's displaying the flower, and unless somebody actually speaks the blazon, nobody knows what kind of flower it is anyway.
Yeah.
So But
Did anyone happen to do a conflict check and just do a conflict check as a sync foil?
I did not. But hold on a second. I don't think I did anyway. Let me look.
Because if we can get her okay to just redraw that as a sync foil, it would be the same relative shape.
Yep.
And then it is a period charge, and all of this headache that we are going through right now is moot.
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Sorry, I moved the phone. I forgot for a moment.
If somebody wants to do a major research project and document the entire history of the azalea, feel free, but it ain't going to be me.
That's a great O&A entry.
Yeah.
Right.
It would be.
That is a botany doctorate.
I know
Susan
people in ROM.
Farmer, I'm
We
thinking.
know people that. Yeah, we know people.
We
You
know
know
people
in
who do
ROM.
that.
You can present it at ROM upcoming.
I'm not presenting anything at Rum Upcoming.
Actually, Lantern expects all of you to.
I sent the list.
The single foil, it looks clear.
Poor Lantern.
Hey, Lantern, you can have any of my 10. Just pick, because I've got like 10 or a dozen.
Works for me.
I sent it into RUM and said, I've got 20 of them. I'm not filling this stupid form out 20 times.
The forms aren't my department. The recruiting and the lassoing is my department.
I understand. If nothing else, stick me in for the period precedence.
Yeah.
Works for me.
All right, so if a sync foil works, then the azalea is a 5-petaled flower.
I got errors. Foil-5 primary is not a valid description.
Hmm.
That would be the most elegant solution.
Yes.
Yeah.
Somebody in YouTube has pointed out there's an Azalea Society of America.
Yes, there is.
That's because there are azaleas in America.
Fancy that.
There are azaleas all over the city, but they're all dead from the 101 degree heat.
We might be able to. The suggestion is to write to them and see if they've got anything they could point us to.
So it looks like a single foil is coded as a rose. So I need to change my search real quick. And
Yes.
Just speaking.
Oh. I'm being haunted by an ember over my shoulder.
Hey!
Hey.
It's our Amelin. Yay!
Yay!
That makes sense, though, Kurt, because, you know, your rose is your most common sync foil.
and it still looks clear.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just did a quick run through with Kehoe, and I got 2 items with a score 3, and neither of them conflict. So
I think that works. I think it's a 5-petaled flower.
Yeah.
that is what I will propose. I will contact the submitter and ask her about changing the azalea flower to a sync foil. And if she approves it, we will redraw it and advance it as that.
Okay.
Moving along to item number 13, Sophia de Soubligny. New household name, White Kraken Keep.
Okay.
What's cracking?
She wants Kraken, but it may have to be a possessive because of the way we had to document it. She wanted originally Kraken Keep, but that conflicts with the Kraken Herald. So she couldn't have just that. So white was added with white and Kraken being a name.
Well, I mean, we should be able to do it using the in name.
Yeah, I was gonna say you should be able to do.
White Kraken should work.
Yeah, that was another option.
Because if you can register it as Kraken Herald, then you can register it as White Kraken Herald, and
Yeah.
And then you could have White Kraken Keep.
Yeah.
And then keep is an acceptable designator. So,
Yeah.
So yeah, that we can.
I think we should keep this one.
Ooh.
Yeah, this one.
So
Kill the punter.
I have a little bit of a relationship with Kraken because, octopus, and that got changed to Polypus. They also changed Kraken to calamari at the same time because Kraken wasn't found in period.
Right, that's why she documented it as a name.
Right.
Instead of as an animal.
Okay.
Yeah, and
or a charge. A name instead of a charge, because with households you have to use charges, and you can't create charges to use as household names.
Yep. Okay. So that was the reason why
That's why
it was documented as a name.
But yeah, we can totally do it as person's name designator.
Keep.
Yes.
That is also an acceptable instruction.
Yeah, that was to get around it.
Right, but I don't think you need the apostrophe S. I think you could just do it with the name.
Well, she would prefer it without the apostrophe, but is willing to accept
Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't see why you should need it.
I don't think we need it.
I don't think you need it.
Okay, cool.
All right, so we will go ahead and send that one up. Moving along to item number 14. Same submitter, new device change. So Azure, a Polypus, and on a chief infected Argent, a Drakkar reversed Fable.
There's your Polypus, Adelaide.
Yep, there it is.
And
yes, she did not color in the Drakkar. Yeah, she did not color the boat in on her original submission, so there is a redraw of that also at the bottom that I did with the ship colored in.
So yeah, I will still have to send that to her for approval before I can change it, but
right.
I don't think that will be an issue.
Look, it's Drakkar Noir.
What? Yeah.
Flashbacks to my youth.
All right, so do we have any other issues, any conflict?
No, it looks good.
As far as I can tell, it's good.
Okay. So I will contact about approving the redraw to color in the boat, and then we will send that up. Moving on to item number 15. Tesselina de la Tour, new name change. Old item, Darren Ingen Laguerre, to be released.
I think there's a typo in the name.
Right. The name in St. Gabriel letter is Tesselina, not Tesclina. There's a missing.
Yeah, and
right.
The submitter even said the sound Tesselina is most important, and there's
so the header's
wrong.
Probably a typo.
Yeah,
because the header gives her that
because the name documentations.
Right, it's just missing one letter, so it's almost got to be a typo.
Well, she hand wrote it.
Except that Kurt said she definitely wrote it in.
Well, just because she wrote it doesn't necessarily mean that she is correcting
copying it.
Yeah.
So I will contact the submitter to get permission to add the E back in if that's what she wants.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, because I'll be the first to tell you that I misspell stuff all the time when I'm writing it. So it's like,
Yeah.
it can happen.
But other than that, the documentation is good.
See if she wants to do that. And if that's okay, then we will send that up.
Sounds good.
And moving on to item number 16, Thomas Williamson, new name and new device. Starting with the name, Dr. Good.
Yes.
There aren't any conflicts. It's pretty straight up.
We don't have a lot of praying mantis, do we?
No, there's only like 12.
Well, who wants to redraw them all the time?
Yeah, really.
This is a very religious one.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and
All of the ones in that family have been.
Yeah.
Move.
The crosses and yeah.
All right, moving on to the device. Ghouls, a chess king, and on a chief archon, 3 praying mantises vert. Do we? Iago is suggesting adding statement into the posture. Do praying mantises have a default posture?
I think we're looking at it.
Well, there are praying mantises registered.
And do they look like that?
But it looks like all but one have the posture specifically stated. So
It wouldn't hurt to add it if Reese wants to remove it.
Okay. Yeah, I'll go ahead and add that in then.
because the one that doesn't have it specifically mentioned was registered in 1984. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't trust that one.
Not
but,
really, no.
but we have one.
We have one in 2018 that's statent.
Yeah, that's what I was getting ready to say. The October 2018, which is the most recent one, has it specifically blazoned as statement.
Well, let's add statement to the blazon then.
Sounds good.
Works.
Yeah, and if you take a look at the return history on that one, the previous badge for the one registered in 2018 was returned for lack of documentation. Quote, no evidence was provided and none could be found for armorial depictions of insects in profile in any posture other than a statement. As they are not quadrupeds, or as they are quadrupeds, aren't quadrupeds, insects are unable to be rampant, which is an explicitly quadrupedal posture. They were trying to submit a mantis rampant gardent.
Yes, they tried rampant first.
All right. So we will add statement to the as a posture to the blazon and send that one up.
Excellent.
Moving along to item number 17.
Taryn, what did you do?
Morphin Galti. New name and new device. Per Saltier, Arjot, and Azure, semi of trefoil counter change. A more rampant.
Okay,
axe schools.
Okay, I don't want to interrupt, but I just got a message from one of the submitters. And she says, hi there, I was watching the YouTube chat and listened to the discussion regarding my device. With regard to coloring the Drakkar, I'm wondering why that's necessary because my original device is currently registered with that exact artwork. And it was lifted from the Bayou Tapestry, thanks. Because it's because if it's not colored sable, it's going to be blazoned as Argent.
If she wants it white, we're happy to have it white. Just let us know if she wants it white or sable.
Oh, we can't have it white because it's on a white sheet.
It's on a white sheet. And if it's not colored black, it's going to be on a white sheet.
Oh yeah.
So that's why it had to be colored in.
Mm.
It's colored in on the original submission, though.
Yeah.
It's not colored in on the original.
From 2014.
2014.
From 2014, okay.
Ah, okay. So,
All right. So back to the board.
Okay, I'm telling her what's going on. So,
Do you want to do the name first?
Yeah, let's go ahead and do the name first.
Okay.
Fidelity. Both of them are from Giribati. I don't think that we have any issues with that.
No.
Appears to be properly constructed. I think we can send it up.
Yes.
Okay. I have a comment on the device.
I have several.
I don't think that's a semi.
Well, the arrangement is a bit of a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know there are other problems with this, but that's Fessy. That's not a semi.
Mm-hmm.
Semis don't march like a bunch of soldiers.
Well, from the semi-blind guy, that ain't a boar, that's a blob.
Yeah, I have a lot of trouble with the board too, except in the line drawing, and we're not registering the line drawing.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, the new coloration that was provided is much clearer the boar.
Yeah.
Well,
Further down, it is much clearer as a boar.
Bronwyn's redo makes it better, but it's still really hard to tell.
But also, like, she also swapped the.
She had to because when we did the axe on the white.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tried it. It still obscures a lot of the distinguishing characteristics, but I think it's a little bit better. But I'm just, at least the axe is no longer on the as your portion of the field.
Yeah, your version is definitely better, but from my view, it's still pretty grim.
It's still, yeah.
Yeah,
It's hard to distinguish, unfortunately.
With the redraw that you did where you swapped the colors, you end up having more of the boar on the blue than on the white.
Yeah.
Which makes it very difficult to identify the primary charge. I think we just have an issue here where you've just got too much going on, and it's hard to identify all of the elements.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, Sophia just told me that she's cool with the Sable Drekon.
Okay, good.
Okay. Excellent. That saves me from writing an email.
Yeah.
So go ahead and use
So
Thank you,
that's,
Sophia.
so that's good. Thanks, Sophia.
Thank you very much. We will go ahead and use the recolor on that one. All right, so back to Fulfiner's device here.
Uh-huh.
Between the semi issue, the color on color, and the unidentifiable main charge, I don't see any way this can go the way it is.
Well, there's
That's
almost no way to
problem.
yeah, there's almost no way to draw it unless the Persaltier was metal and metal. If it was like gold and white instead of blue and white,
Right.
Yeah, but then we couldn't counter change.
then you couldn't counterchange the trefoils.
Well, you could do it as two different furs.
Yeah.
Taryn, you're not supposed to be on this call.
I'm not quite that.
Well, you can't counter change the semi anyway because there is no semi.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the first problem.
There's too much wrong with this one for it to go forward at this time. There's too many things that have to be fixed, and we don't know how to do them, how they're going to want to do them.
Here is the submitter.
Here's the thing: if I'm going to return it, I have to have a concrete point to say this is why I'm returning it.
Yeah, it's
too hard. This is the concrete point for why I'm returning this.
Big one, overall identifiability.
I have a lot of
semi.
Color on color.
Identifiability issues, I would say.
Yeah.
Lack of contrast.
And the semi is not semi.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
Do we know where the submitter
We
is?
don't have one reason. We have a couple, unfortunately.
Yeah, where does he live?
Let me find out.
Yeah, we could help him, but
I'm sure there's a way to do this.
I don't think this was Taryn, by the way.
Yeah, The
It
bow,
was.
I'm just blaming him.
Well, this was that goal for a submission.
yeah, the boar with the axe is, the artwork is fine. We just need some kind of a background that doesn't complicate it.
Shire of Oakhorn Keep.
Of where?
Warren Keep, Alabama.
Okay.
That's close enough to tear into count.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's close enough to Taryn.
Are we sure Taryn didn't have anything to do with it?
That's what I'm wondering.
I was going to say, if I can get access to him, I can help him fix this.
Okay, yeah, there's unfortunately it's got a few issues, but it's fixable.
Yeah. Okay. So unfortunately, we will have to return the device.
Yes.
But the name is an excellent name, and it will be advanced.
Fine.
Yeah, on the semi, there's too much of the things there.
So what is the handbook definition for a semi?
6 or more.
6 or more?
Yes.
But
And I'm being told 7 to 12 would be
Scattered
better on
across
that one.
the field, and these are in lines.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have to be strewn.
Yes.
That's the word.
At the very least, usually in a staggered pattern, if not a truly irregular pattern.
And on this one
Like our next
specifically, I'm being told 7 to 12 would be good.
Mm-hmm.
okay.
Yeah.
All right. So that'll give me points to put in the letter of return for potential fixes.
All right.
Yes.
So,
Feel free to throw in a link to me, and I'll help him fix it if he wants.
That would be great.
all right. So moving along to item number 18, Tribunus Argeros,
This is-
resub of device,
This is much of an improvement. This,
and Azure, a chevron throughout,
Yeah.
between 2 plummets and a chrysanthemum marchand.
this is a really nice improvement over the original.
Yeah.
However, when it was returned the first time, it said, upon resubmission, please draw the chevron at least 4 times as thick. And this chevron is clearly only like 3 times as thick, so...
Send it back.
No, it looks good.
It looks
I like this redraw.
Yeah, no, the improvement is noticeable.
I
Oh,
feel
yeah.
like
You're
I
telling
feel
me
like
you don't want my artwork
that he looks
What you
so
telling
close.
because I may have had a hand in redrawing this.
Oh, well, God forbid. One step from period practice for the use of the Japanese chrysanthemum. But otherwise, it looks good.
All right.
And
Any more witty comments from Lucius?
Who?
From Lucian, sorry. My brain's going kaput.
I was like, Ellen?
That is my Latin name.
Sorry.
Lucius
I'm
is
normally
in
in bed
here.
by 45 minutes before it would have been bed for me.
Uh-huh.
All right. So we're going to go ahead and advance that resub. Moving along to item number 19. William de Colwell. New name and new device. Starting
Yep.
off name.
Looks like a great name. I mean, the elements are within 2 years of each other.
Yeah.
Both documented from the same source as English. Excellent name.
In fact, William de Colwell are documented at the same year in de Colwell, because
Yep.
William de Colwell is documented in 1384 with the same source.
It's not just a plausible name, it actually existed. Good
Yeah,
job!
it's like,
Good job!
great period name.
Yeah.
All right. So we don't have any issues with that, and I don't think we do.
Looks
We're
good.
going to go ahead and send that one up.
Uh-huh.
Moving on to the device. Prevent Sinister, Argent, and Azure, a Maltese cross table, and 3 dubs Migrant, Bendwise, Argent.
Yeah, that's got that.
Like I mentioned, that this as a unity of orientation issue.
I think so.
Yeah, because they're all on the field, and so they're co-primary. Therefore, they have to be compared, and they're not in a standard arrangement.
Well, they're in a standard arrangement, but not in standard orientation.
Right. They follow the line, which is right, but they're pointed at it like they're birds flying into a window.
Right. If they were straight up, it would work.
Well, there is a redraw at the bottom.
Yes. Yeah. I contacted the submitter and got his permission to do the resubmission, to do the redraw, which has the birds of migrant, pale wise.
The birds look like Vorlons.
What?
I said your birds look like Vorlons.
So, Kurt, did you say that you did get submitter permission to use the redraw?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Well, the redraw does fix that issue.
Mm-hmm.
So we will use the redraw and send it up.
So these are also going from migrant to displayed. Is that correct?
No.
Mm-mm.
No, they're equivalent to displayed.
Because they're not facing the viewer. They're from
No, they're in the migrant position, and they're now in an even orientation.
Okay, they just have more detail than I'm used to in migrant. It's cool.
Yeah, but the earlier
we went from too little to a lot.
Yeah.
I guess that's why they look like Vorlons now.
In order for them to be displayed, they'd have to have their little legs splayed off.
How could you tell the little tiny things?
And the head would face you rather than facing up.
So
okay, no problem.
Migrant and displayed count against each other for conflict.
Correct.
But they are different. So,
okay.
All right. And moving on to item number 20. This is the last item on.
Yay. Okay.
This is the last submitter on this letter.
Yippee!
Number 20. Give me a second.
Zurich.
Zdodrag.
Zdodrag.
Close enough, I hope. Name and device. Start off with the name. Both of them are from Goldschmidt's Russian names.
Also known as Wickedon.
Yeah, I have to agree with Bronwyn. I think we might have to add the "of" on the end of it.
Yeah.
And use it as a patronymic.
Yeah.
A double given name.
Yeah. I don't know whether you can have double given names in Russian or not, but typically they don't.
Given is one of the many name patterns.
Still need a surname.
Given is one of many name patterns that were documented by Wickedent.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Never mind then.
Okay,
Scroll down to my comment below Bronwyn's.
Okay. No, then thank you for. I'm just not familiar.
We're
with
not
it.
used to given, so
Right. You have to have two name elements, whether they're
Right.
given, whatever. Yeah, it's fine. As long as there's two name elements, we're fine.
Okay.
Right.
Russian is weird.
Okay. So, in that case, name is good.
Mm-hmm.
So,
To get it where Russian, more Russian experts will look at it and go, this actually needs to be this. So,
right. I mean, if they decide to make it a patronymic, so be it.
Right.
Otherwise, we'll leave it.
all right. So, finally, the device. Azure Mullety of 8 and Ass Rampant Argent. I
Yeah.
like it.
And he specifically wants 8 mullets.
The mullets are 8 pointed.
Oh, 8 points. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's mullety across the field.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure there's a story behind this. Not sure I want to know what it is.
Well,
I need to know.
I will point out that these are close to the arms of the Kingdom of Valdemar. But that is a Pegasus.
Wait,
Yeah.
Kingdom of
Valdemar, the Heralds of Valdemar by Mercedes Lackey.
Mercedes Lackey's books. Okay, I thought that's what you said. I wasn't sure. Kingdom of Aldemar.
Valdemar.
That's...
You can kind of see an image there.
Are those protected arms?
They are protected because Mercedes Lackey is a member of the SCA. The Heralds of Valdemar are read by a great number of members of the SCA, particularly the College of Arms, and they are registered in the SCA to somebody to whom she wrote a letter of permission to conflict.
Well, the Pegasus is also facing in the opposite direction. So you have Pegasus versus an ass and Saturn.
And a DC for the wing.
That's why I said they were close.
Yeah.
No, it works for whatever reason, but that's what they want.
Mm-hmm.
More power to them.
Yeah, so I like it.
Is listed, I think, in a few forms of Russian folk tales. So
I think we have a problem with the name.
Oh.
According to Senna, double given names in Russian would be one Christian and one Slavic. And these are both Slavic.
You're right.
So, barring that, we would actually have to document the use of double given names. Because it's not a name pattern that
specifically in Slavic. Either that or you make the father's or the second given name a patronymic.
Right.
So I will contact the submitter on that one. If they will be all right with changing that second name to a patronymic, just adding the "of" on the end of it.
Which, I mean, he should be great with because it'll make it even harder to pronounce.
Yeah.
Where did you find that? There it is. Okay. Yes, one Christian, one Slavic. Got it. Okay.
All right. So that brings us to the end of the letter.
Yay, Pennon!
Yeah. We had a rocky start. Technology did not want to play nice, but we finally managed to bring something up to get the letter done. So thank you, everybody, who came and helped with commentary tonight. Thank you, Cormac, for joining us.
It was my pleasure.
And thank you to everyone who was watching on the YouTube live stream. Our next meeting will be tentatively set for Tuesday, June 25th.
Okay. So, hopefully, I will see all of you then. So, until then, good night and see you next month.
Good night.
Good night.